Proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous line o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. Happy Friday, you guys. I know it's late. It's like almost 10 o'clock. Y'all, Jesus. I need grace, okay? I need grace because this has been a really trying week for me. As far as content creation goes, I'm doing my best to keep up. But my twins turned 14. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying that, Father. My twins turned 14 yesterday, and we are planning a little birthday shindig for them tomorrow. And I still have things to do with that, and it's cold. My vitamin D levels are low, and my energy is just not where it needs to be. I just have so much going on. So I apologize if the content this week has just been subpar. I really do. My heart is in it, but I can't get my brain and my body to coordinate with what my heart has going on. So I do ask for your grace. But tonight, I'm going to do my best. I showed up. I am here. Shout out to all of you guys watching us on YouTube or Rumble. Facebook is still giving us some problems, and X. if you would, do me one quick favor, like this video. Go ahead and share it and spread it. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't even have time to announce or make a post that I was gonna go live. So nobody knows that I'm live. And by the time they see that I'm live, I'll probably be knee deep into my content tonight. So if you could just help me out, it lets the YouTube algorithm know that this content is valuable. So even before you watch it. Now, we do have our resident hater that stops by the channel every time they see me live just to do a thumbs down. So we waiting for them to kind of get it out their system. Whoever this hater is, they really need to get a life. It's really, really sad that they are so consumed with whatever I got going on over here that without fail, I mean, they faithful. They are really faithful with their thumbs down, regardless of what I'm talking about. So I saw a super chat. Let me just go ahead and get that out the way. Hey, bearded slave for Christ. I love that. I'm a slave for the Lord Jesus as well. Thank you for your super chat this evening. He says, God bless you, Sister April. Keep up the good work. Thank you for that tidbit of encouragement. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, to be honest, you guys, when I'm in a funk like this and I just don't feel like going another further, it is you guys that encourage me with your comments and your email messages and the DMs that I never respond to because people are crazy and it's just not safe out here in these social media streets. But I am grateful and appreciative for all of the time you guys spend with me and hang out with me while we live stream. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll probably cover, depending on how knee deep into this topic I get. Y'all know me. I am not one of these little surface level, hey, this is what had happened. This is how I feel. God bless you. Good night. No. Y'all know I always got an angle. Always got an angle. Got a little deep dive because I want you guys to understand that what you are seeing today, history always repeats itself. And there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, we read in Ecclesiastes that, there's a time and a place for everything and there's a season, but ain't nothing new. Like, all is vanity in the world. And so on the thumbnail, I put, I'm trying to even remember. I look at it from my phone, the exact verbiage that I used on the thumbnail. And it's because I'm going to make a comparison tonight from what you are seeing as it relates to these ICE protests and the civil and social unrest that we're seeing out in the streets. Now it is trickling down to the children. I hope you realize and understood that they were absolutely coming for your children. That's part of the playbook. The Marxists will always attempt, because their goal is to dethrone God, it's an anti Christian, anti God worldview. The children are a part of the package. So they always come for the kids. If they can insert themselves and usurp parental authority, and like I said, it's not that they can dethrone God, but that's their job. But to do that, they have to destroy religion, and then they have to be in the way of what stands between children and them, and that's the parental authority, right? So if they can get your children to think that you don't know what is best and that the state, the government is God, and that all of this social activism is what makes them a good and righteous person, then once they get a foothold in, they can completely manipulate your child for generations to come. And how is it that we know this? We know this because we've been here before. I'm going to explain exactly what I mean when I say we've been here before, but let's just say one of the reasons that, particularly in the Black context, that so many of us are beholden to the Democrat Party and we have this unhealthy attachment and we can't walk away is because many of our parents and our grandparents were heavily indoctrinated and inculcated into a what I call a melanated Marxist worldview. to where they were children or young adults at the time of the civil rights movement, and they were led to believe that all that came from that movement was for a righteous cause. And because of that, because of the virtue that they hold, or the virtue that they see from that movement, they are attached. And it's almost as if you do an autopsy, if you are to examine or question anything that happened out of the civil rights movement, you are attacking their identity. And if you take that away from them, it's like, well, they don't have anything else. And they feel a loyalty and say, regardless of what else I see the Democrat left doing, I can't leave them because they did this, that, and the third for me. But what I am here to do is to examine all of history and to demonstrate that much of what you saw then was a psyop, and they were manipulated and misled, and what much of what you're seeing today is a psyop. And these children, this new generation, are being misled and manipulated. So I want to ask you guys a question. When did sixth grade, right, become like the new DNC field recruitment office? And the reason why I ask that is because apparently, based on what I'm going to show you today, math is optional and reading is racist. And so they've got to insert other things into the school day to keep your children, or should I say, to educate your children, but your children are not learning. You're going to learn today that there have been marching in the streets for a political cause, and your children are being lured in, and they're becoming a part of a movement that fundamentally they don't understand. But here's the part that should make every parent, it should make your blood pressure spike. It should make you be like, well, wait a minute. Who left the gate open? Because I didn't sign up for this. They're not just pushing propaganda at your kids. These socialists, these Marxists are using your kids as cannon fodder. And if you think I'm being dramatic, I'm about to roll a clip and I'm about to show you better than I could tell you. So I want you to take a look at this.
Or not. There was a video that went bonkers on social media over the weekend, understandably so. So it takes place in Auburn, Washington. There's a mom named Erica who shows up to pick up her daughter at school, at a middle school, Olympic Middle School, and is confronted with a mass student protest, again, at a middle school, against ICE. This mom decides in that moment she is going to yank her child out of public school.
This is my daughter's middle school. Being allowed to protest ICE agents, disrupting traffic, having everyone honk. I'm pulling my child from school today. I'm here to pull my child from the school right now.
Perfect. Do you want to withdraw it?
Yep. This is unbelievable. I can't believe my kid is in this environment right now. As I walked up, I was getting booed by every single student. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a huge problem, guys. I cannot believe that my child is in this environment right now. I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed as a parent and as an adult. Wow, I thought my kid was safe here. I'm sorry, baby. I will let you pick whatever school you want. I don't care if I have to pay for it. My baby. I don't care if I have to pay for it. Any school you want.
And I will say she was met with overwhelming love and support.
So I'm going to stop it right there. So this is a video of a mom who had no idea that her child was going to be involved in an ICE protest. And she's recording here how she goes up to the school once she discovers, and I'm going to let it play some more. She's going to explain how she realized where her kid was. But she, at this point, once she recognizes what's going on, she goes into the office to withdraw her kid from school. Now, I noticed something that she said. I'm going to replay it right here at the end. I'm going to play it again, and then I just kind of briefly want to remark on it.
Any school you want.
And I will say,
here, that's what it was. Y'all know my short-term memory is bad. She says, honey, you can go to any school you want. I don't care if, I have to pay for it. And now I don't want to be overly harsh and overly critical to this mom, but I have to highlight the flaw in her reasoning here. And it could just be because she's in the moment. She's kind of recording and kind of documenting this. I get it, but I'm still going to engage with it. One of the reasons that we are here, like in this situation, is because many of us, we keep forgetting that we are the parent. And we don't all do this. So many of us are guilty. We don't do and execute this flawlessly, but we've allowed our children to kind of raise themselves and to make the decisions based on what they believe is best. Under no certain terms would I ever tell my minor child, especially not a middle schooler or a junior high schooler, I'm kind of strict with the high schoolers, that you can pick whatever school you want. No, they're children. Children don't know what's best for them. So you're here because you abdicated the responsibility of vetting and determining what was best for your child, and you left it up to chance. And hear me clearly. Many of us, I was educated in the K through 12 New York City public school system. At one point, you could trust that if you lived in a decent neighborhood, that you could just send your kid to whatever the zone school was. And for the most part, they'd come out learning their ABCs, their 1, 2, 3s, and they were going to be okay. But even at my age, when things were nowhere near as bad as they are now, there was a heavy Marxist indoctrination undertone when I was in school. And my mother realized very early on that she could not leave my educational outcomes up to chance, and that she had to be very, very involved and proactive in determining, well, wait a minute. If this is how this school is, I have got to figure out an alternative. And so I just wanted to remark there when she says, baby, you can go to whatever school you want to. That's not the solution. Mom, love you to pieces. Don't want to be overly critical, but you need people in your life who are going to say no. You got to put your foot down, and you've got to intervene, and you've got to vet, and you've got to, through the process of elimination and determining what educational environment is best for your child, and then make your decision. But we don't leave that decision up to the child. So I did not realize I had one other super chat. Let me engage with that one. Bearded Slave for Christ is back. Thank you so much for your super chat. He says, more and more Christians show their outrage for ICE, the Trump administration, etc., when they refuse to address false doctrine in their churches. You know what? You're right. Sadly, a lot of these churches are led by false shepherds. And so because you have the false shepherds, you're not going to get them to deal with the false doctrine, because it's the very presence of false doctrine that keeps them enslaved to this false religious system. So a pastor who, I'm going to just be honest, most of the pastors are in bed with the Democrat Party. If you're in bed with the Democrat Party and you're getting perks from the Democrat Party, you can't preach from the pulpit any ideology that opposes that which the DNC stands for. How do we know this? We have a prime example right over here at Stillbirth. Over there in Stillbirth, Jamal Bryant's church. He can't deal honestly with the text. One, because he's unconverted. Okay, he's an unbeliever. Okay, he's running. I call that the stillbirth center of social change and political activism. It's not a church. So all of the rhetoric that's going to come from New Birth is going to align with whatever the Democrat narrative is. So we can't even get to the false doctrine in terms of how he handles scripture and how he misrepresents the God of the Bible because he's a wolf. We can't even get to the theological doctrinal stuff because we're not dealing with church. We're not dealing with someone that's converted, and ideologically he is a political activist standing behind the shield of religion to push his ideological agenda. Hopefully that answers that. And then we've got one more. Oh, thank you so much for your super chats this evening. I greatly appreciate it. Bearded Slave for Christ. He says Romans 13 is clear. We are not to oppose the government God has ordained, but rather to appeal to them when wrongs are perceived, like Paul did with King Agrippa in Acts 26. Absolutely. I'm so grateful that we have people in the super chats, in the live chat, who are students of the word and who are able to parse through these things biblically. Romans 13 gives us our admonition for the type of relationship we are to have with governing authorities. Yes, unfortunately, that means when it's good governments and bad, we are to submit up until the point, unless they're asking us to sin, we are to submit to the government. And the best example of where you're permitted by scripture to defy the government is if they're asking you to do something that violates God's command, such as we're to gather, right? We saw that during COVID when they were like, oh, you got to shut your church down. You can't gather with the Lord, the people of God. We were like, say what? Nah, yeah, that's where Caesar, okay? Jesus is Lord to the glory of God the Father, not you. I must obey God rather than man. And so many of us gathered anyway, and we were prepared to experience the persecution that comes along with that. As you remember, I don't know if you guys remember up in Canada, Pastor Coates was jailed for refusing to close his church down during the pandemic. He was exercised. Now, granted, he's a Canadian, but he was, I don't know what type of religious liberties they have there, but he was like, listen, I'm a Christian. It is unchristian for me, and it is disobedient for me to not gather with God's people and to preach the word in season and out of season, whether that's during a famine or during pestilence. Like, this is what we do. We gather. We'll do it in a cave. We'll do it by the beach. It doesn't matter. We're gonna gather. And he did so in violation of the governing authorities, but he was being obedient to the Lord Jesus. So thank you so much, Bearded Slave for Christ, for reminding us of what Romans 13 teaches. Thank you so much. Now, anyway, as I was saying, what we saw here with the mom yanking her daughter out of public school, it's over this ICE protest. So apparently, there are these Marxist, cultural Marxist groups, many of them are socialists in origin, that are radicalizing these children by organizing them. And they're using methods such as social media and message boards and text messaging and all of these other applications to enrage these children, kind of giving them some rage bait, making them inciting feelings of unrest. And this is, you know how you hear children say, oh man, this is not fair. These children don't understand what is going on with the illegal immigration. They don't understand what it means for their local communities. They don't understand what it means to the labor market. They don't understand what it means to the economy of this country or their future. They're just radicalized by rhetoric that is baseless and not relative to them, but they're weaponizing compassion and the do-gooderness that's in a child's heart basically folly or foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, and they're exploiting that. And so I'm going to let the clip finish playing, and then I'm going to provide you guys with some commentary.
She was met with overwhelming love and support for what she did for her child in that moment. Her name is Erica Franklin, and she joins us now on Undivided. Erica, welcome to Undivided.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Crazy weekend or not?
Fast. I don't have words to express how it's making me feel, but I am very blown away and grateful for the love and support. It's something that I've never had before. In this magnitude, of course, my family love and support, but this magnitude is mind-blowing for me and my family.
Yeah. Well, what made you pull up to your child's school to take her out that day? Is it because you knew that the protest was happening?
No, I absolutely knew nothing. I was just on my regular routine. This is just what I do. And normally when I go to pull my daughter or pick her up from school, I don't pull in the front of the school. I started my routine in the back by handicap because I am, and it's just easier access for her to get to me. And so, but this day when I come my way, normally I have to turn and see the front of the school. So I see this and my heart immediately just went on fire. And so I pull up to where the crowd is, and there's teachers out there in vests directing traffic and trying to keep things under control. And I asked them, I said, what?
There was a...
Right. So I just wanted to give you guys some context so that you can see what this mom experienced. Like I said, we want to support her. But one of the ways that we support moms and parents is we've got to be very frank and honest with them. A lot of us, if we're just honest, we've been asleep at the wheel. I mean, it's so easy. Look, unlike these protesters they're not gainfully employed and they're not working and trying to keep food on the table and just trying to keep everything, you know what I'm saying? They're not involved in the day-to-day life like regular people are because activism is their life. A lot of parents are like, listen, I ain't even gonna lie. I didn't know what was going on. I have not been paying attention for the most part. I thought, Shaquan and Shakita and Tyrone was just going to school and they was learning and all was right with the world. Many of us are not aware, and to be honest, the average American is not politically engaged. They kind of know what's going on like a cursory level, but they're not knee deep. Like, this is what I do for a living. So I'm, intimately connected with the news cycle. I have to listen to what the right and the left is saying. I eat, sleep, breathe, and talk politics. So I'm a little different though. The average person is like, I don't have time for all of that. I'm trying to live. I go to work, I come home, and I rinse and repeat. So I wanted you to see that clip because these students are out here protesting and they are screaming, slogans. They've got signs, but this is not organic from these students. No, this was a deployment. This mom showed up to the school and discovered that her kid's been included in a protest. And I have another clip that I am going to show you, but a lot of parents are not involved enough. At least I can speak for here in Georgia, depending on the side of town you live on. Honey, some of these PTAs are not even active, especially in DeKalb County. And that's what I'm so blown away about how loud and involved Jamal Bryant is when New Birth, his church in the Stonecrest area, all of the schools in that district area are trash and have no active PTA. And one thing I can say is that, say what you want. Okay, Bishop Long was a problem and he had some issues. But one thing we cannot say, at least from this aspect of what I'm about to speak on, Bishop Long was very involved at the school level. He was the chaplain over at Southwest DeKalb. He had children in Stevenson High School at the time. He was just beloved in the sense that the school system performed way better, and there was a standard of excellence when he was the pastor there, because so many of the parents were members of New Birth, and we weren't about to deal with trash schools. Okay? This how I know Jamal don't give a darn about the parishioners over there at New Birth or their children, because the schools are horrible. They are just bad. And it comes from the worldview. It is culturally Marxist at its core. So if your pastor is a disruptor, right, as he would call himself, and an agent of chaos, are you surprised that the schools reflect what's going on in the community? It's disruptive and chaotic. So let me show you this other clip. I gotta minimize this though, because it's in Chrome. So y'all bear with me one quick second. Here we go. Here's the other clip I want to show you, because this is in my neck of the woods over here in Georgia. Take a listen to this.
Enforcement operations leading to empty classrooms today in Georgia. Organizers say more than 100 schools across the state walked out in protest. Line News First reporter Abby Kasoris is live at Centennial High School. It's where a large number of the student body stepped out together today. Abby, why does this issue hit so close to home?
Well, the school here is pretty diverse, and that really matters here. While some students participated in the walkout, others stayed home because they're afraid.
After the bell, more than 100 students came pouring out of Centennial High School. This was part of a nationwide day of walkouts sparked by deadly ICE shootings in Minneapolis. Organizers say more than 100 schools across Georgia participated, but at Centennial, this hit home. Students say some Latino classmates stayed home out of fear, worried they could be targeted or put their parents at risk. So instead, their classmates showed up and walked out for them, saying if some students don't feel safe enough to be here, they'll use their voices instead. For parents like Carol Vesci, this isn't a policy debate, it's everyday life. She's adopted 2 children from Guatemala. They're U.S. citizens, but because of how they look, she makes sure they always carry an ID.
Now, what do we notice here? Before I engage with the lesbian adopted mother with the kids from Guatemala, Roswell High School is in a pretty decent area. It's North Fulton County. It is diverse in that there is a Hispanic population, but North Fulton tends to be, depending on where you are, white liberals. Okay, I'm gonna just say it. Okay, I don't have nothing to hide. So I'm not surprised that these young adults are radicalized on this part of town. But y'all, Georgia is a red state, but Fulton County is overwhelmingly blue. And so, and if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, I think the city of Atlanta, which is not, Roswell is north of Atlanta, but I think the city of Atlanta might have some sort of sanctuary status, kind of, sort of, but not really. I don't know. I need to look into that. But just notice how these children are walking out passionate and angry. But like I saw Brian say, these children, they don't know what they're angry about. No one has ever engaged with them in a meaningful way to explain to them why illegal immigration is a problem for this country and how it's directly going to impact them. They're just there for the feels of it all. And then some of them are just there like, listen, we out of class, so I'm going to just do my part. But they don't really know why they're there. Now listen to this woman.
I'm scared. Well, it isn't when they leave the house, it's when they're not home. And they're coming home late. it's like, uh-oh, where are they?
Beshi says she was relieved when school leaders shifted their approach. Instead of threatening expulsions, administrators kept the walkout supervised and contained it in the parking lot. She says when fear keeps kids from coming to school, silence doesn't feel like an option.
And the kids are saying, our fellow students are scared. Help us. And I think that's great that they're thinking of other people besides themselves.
The walkout, it lasted about 10 minutes and then students went right back inside. Different schools and different school districts have had a different approach to this day, and we've heard from a lot of those students who said that they might not have been able to protest at other school districts.
Right, because other school districts, like, we ain't playing that, and we will send your behind home and expel you. So it sounds as if, they're trying to appease, the huge liberal faction whose parents are probably liberal and the kids are radicalized. But I want to talk about what you guys just saw here. Because this is happening across all parts of the country, including here in Georgia, Washington State. I saw someone mention that it's happened in Texas, where they're from, and somebody's baby got threatened. And if you walk out of school, you're going to be walking out this house homeless because don't come back. Or I'm joking. I know you didn't say that. But students have participated in these walkouts. And it's directly tied to what's going on with the immigration enforcement controversy. So here in Georgia, a lot of the local news, the local news outlets were reporting that they were staging these walkouts as a part of a broader day of action. And I did some research and located that one of these protests was organized by the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And this is the group that helped with the logistics. So in Washington State, particularly reporting out of Auburn, students described the walkouts, but some of them even included middle schoolers. Okay, like middle schoolers. And the principal of Olympic Middle School publicly stated that walkout was not school sanctioned, and students who left were marked absent or truant. And I was like, as they should. So here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that teenagers cannot have opinions, right? I'm not saying that young people can't care about what's going on in our country as it relates to policy. What I am saying is that these public schools are not allowed and should not be allowed to become political training camps. But that's exactly what they've become. Your child's classroom is not a staging area for activism. And parents need to stop acting like this is normal for a school to just casually fit into their school day political mobilization, because it starts here, but it always escalates. This is the test run. What the Marxists do is they want to see, if you give them a little rope, how much more will you give them? If you give them an inch, they're like, now that means we can take a mile. We can take a mile. What's interesting about this, though, I know y'all are like, well, April, what's the big deal? It didn't end in any violence, right? This seemed peaceful and just uneventful. Well, I'm going to show you why. This is not new. This is an old tactic with a nice little fresh Instagram filter on it, and it directly connects back to one of the most famous moments in American history. And I'm going to connect this and draw a parallel and a similarity to the Children's March in Birmingham, Alabama. Because y'all do know the left has always understood one thing: if you can get the kids, you can get the culture. So let me go ahead and let you guys take a look at this. Now, this clip is a little long, and I am going to ask for your patience because you're going to learn a lot today. You're going to learn a lot, and it's important. Take a look at this clip. Listen carefully. You would if there was audio. Oh, darn it. I know exactly what I did. Y'all, I exported this by mistake without the audio. Give me a second. Just when you thought just when I thought I had everything under control, I should have known. Where did I put this? Oh gosh, it's on my laptop. Ugh. Give me a sec. I was worried about a copyright claim, you guys, because there was some background music and I wasn't sure if that music was royalty free or not. So give me a second to access this clip. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. I don't know why. How did I delete that without the audio? I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I know exactly what happened. Let me export it again. Give me a second, y'all. Here we go. I was working from the laptop. And then I will, what's the word? Airdrop it to myself. So while that's exporting, let me just grab this super chat. Hey, Bearded Slave for Christ. Bearded Slave says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Nothing more disgraceful than encouraging kids to be activists, putting them in harm's way instead of keeping them safe. Well, I agree. Here's the deal. The march, they're trying to get these kids outraged and marching without giving them context as to why ICE even exists, right? They want to appeal to compassion and love of neighbor. They want to use a lot of their virtue signaling of essentially. But this was a test run. If you can convince young people that when you go out and protest, that you can let go your outrage and your anger is finished and be upset and it's all good, what happens is they escalate it to the next level, right? So with the adults who were, basically they weren't pretending, they were absolutely engaged in Marxist agitation. Two of them lost their lives, right? That's like the next level, but it starts here. What happens is a lot of these children, the ones who will graduate, are going to go to a university or college where the indoctrination will be further. They'll be indoctrinated a little bit more, and they'll be so radicalized that they're the ones that you're not going to want caring for you, as your nurse. If they happen to find out that you're a conservative or you're a Christian, these kids, they start out this way and they become so radicalized that they're told that if you don't agree with them, you're the devil, you're evil, you're the opposition that must be destroyed. And so, where did I put this? Hold on. Let me see where have mercy. I can't remember. What did I name the stupid file and where did I put it? Oh, okay. Let me airdrop this to myself. Y'all are so patient. I appreciate it. I really do. There we go. It's coming through. All right. Now I can. Is it finished? It's receiving. All right. I got it. I'm sorry about that, you guys. All right. Let's open, move you here, make you bigger. All right. Y'all ready? Thank you for your patience.
We were brought up in the segregated South. We didn't have very much contact or social mingling with whites, but we had a very cultured cultured upbringing. You know, we were sheltered and enriched culturally, but we were also insulated.
All right. I know y'all like, dang, sis, let it play. What he said there was so important. He grew up in the segregated South, and what did you notice? He said, we're pretty much segregated from white people. You know, we were cultured and kind of sheltered. Like, basically, he's not recounting a time. Hear me clearly, because I know y'all gonna take this. Some of y'all gonna hear me and take this somewhere else. I'm trying to demonstrate from this man's own words that his lived experience as a youth in the segregated South, he said, our parents protected us, well adjusted, we lived our life, didn't really have any problems. You know, we were really sheltered from whatever was going on. We had no knowledge of it, nor did it directly impact us. That's the point that I'm trying to make, and I want you to keep listening.
You know, from much of the racism and the hatred that was going on in the broader society. The Children's March, I remember the Children's March very vividly. Most of the children who participated in the Children's March, I'm not going to say most, a great deal, had to sneak off and go to the march because their parents really didn't want, it was too dangerous, they thought. And I remember this high-profile politician coming to Booker T. Washington Business College to talk to my Uncle Gaston and to tell him that how dangerous he thought it was for them to be sending the children out into the street.
Now, this is a man recounting the Birmingham Children's March, where he said from his own words that all of the children, he feels confident that all of the children there had to sneak because none of the parents were like, yes, baby, we want you out on the front line to go get mauled by dogs and hosed down with fire hoses, right? Parents are like, nah. Mind you, what did this man just say? Much of the social dynamic between black and white people, he was like, we were insulated from that. Whatever was going on out there, that was not our lived experience. Basically, I interpret that as look, white folks, they ain't like us, and that's fine. And the black folks like, we don't like them, and that's fine. But as it relates to his upbringing and how his parents raised him, he said cultured and well-adjusted, right? And that these children who had to sneak and go because their parents were like, absolutely not. Then he said, this powerful politician explained to his uncle, like, this is a wild and crazy idea. Why are you sending children? Do you see how young some of these children are? This was planned. This was coordinated. And you're going to hear and find out just how planned and coordinated this was. I told y'all, ain't nothing new under the sun. These melanated Marxists have a playbook, and they always go back to the playbook.
And he wanted him to talk it down if he could. And he asked him, I remember, he asked him if he thought it was a good idea. And he didn't think it was a good idea. He thought it was too dangerous for the children to be out there, you know, facing those fire hoses and those dogs. Bevel thought it was the right idea. It was the only idea. It was the only idea that could bring attention, you know, to how serious and how critical the situation was here in Birmingham. And he proved right. If the media got a hold of this and how much attention it would bring to the, you know, to the area, and they were exactly right. Bevel was right, and I think if that was their intention, they were right.
Did y'all hear that? Now, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with James Bevel, the pedophile who was perpetually raping his own daughters and served time in prison for such. one of the Diddicrats, the original Diddicrats of the civil rights movement, who was the mastermind behind Let's Use the Children. This man, by his own testimony, says it was James Bevel's idea to use the children, who said it's the only way we must use the children to get the media optics that we need in order to get the attention that we deserve. So don't nobody care if your child gets harmed or maimed or injured or permanently traumatized from what's about to happen to them. And not in this account, but in other accounts, you have firsthand eyewitness testimony saying they bribed us with ice cream and told us how much fun it was going to be. A lot of these kids didn't even know they were going to a march. Some of them knew, but some of the really, really young ones did not know. They were like, we just wanted the ice cream. And so we just kind of showed up. And this gentleman says it worked. Because what did you just see as B-roll to this man's testimony? You saw the optics. You saw a young child. I'm a playback. Well, a teenage boy. Look at this. Dog nipping at him. Look at this man right here. Turning around like, what in the world? Look at all the black people walking by like, what is going on? The optics. This could have been your child. And this is what we've been told is brave and courageous. And this had to be done for the movement. When you have people saying, no, this was not. These children were manipulated, just like Marxists do. You didn't hear this young man say, well, before this march, he didn't say that life was perfect. He didn't say that there were not racial issues between blacks and whites. He said our life was relatively well-cultured, well-adjusted, and whatever social unrest was out there in the world did not affect us. But this was from the Marxist playbook. You have to create the agitation. You've got to create the optics because it's a tool. It's a tool to get what you really want, right? Let me go back. I'm going to let them finish. Now listen to this.
One of the last things King did before going to jail was to place an urgent call to a fiery young preacher in Mississippi by the name of James Bevel.
Bevel was a secret weapon.
He was the brain of the bunch.
He was obnoxious as the devil, but that was his role.
Well, I knew that the Birmingham project was going very slow because they couldn't get many people to go to jail.
I'm going to grab this super chat. But you just heard him say that the Birmingham project was a little hard because they couldn't even convince enough black people to voluntarily participate in this foolishness to go to jail. So they're like, darn it, we got to manufacture it. Let me grab this super chat. You are officially the stream sponsor for tonight, Mr. Bearded Slave for Christ. Thank you so much, sir, for this super chat and for your generosity this evening. It does not go without being noticed. You say here that the martyrs of the faith who truly deal with adversity never once sought to overthrow government. Boy, sir, you better come on through here. But rather die for the sake of Christ, demonstrating their faith by humility and making persuasive arguments rather than passive aggression and violence. Sir, God, I wish I could copy that and paste it somewhere. You guys, we can shut the whole stream down. Bearded Slave for Christ has so eloquently articulated the posture of the believer, which is the opposite of what we were taught we were supposed to be doing by these civil rights icons that we've been taught to revere. Genuine Christianity does not function with passive aggression and violence, but rather we're submitted to the Lord Jesus, right? When we are persecuted for our faith, our goal is to live peaceful and quiet lives, working with our hands, minding our own business. That's really what our goal is supposed to do. And we're supposed to be praying for the civility and peace of our community and our nation. This is why we're admonished to pray for our leaders. However, we've never been admonished. Even though Peter was a little spicy, Peter would listen, he'd draw a sword in a minute. Jesus had to work that out of him, like, Peter, chill, pimpin'. This is not the way. Now, it's going to be a time when you can pick up a sword if somebody came at you, but my time has come. You can't be cutting off people's ear in the garden, Peter, right? Jesus had to work that out in Peter. And Jesus wasn't saying, Peter, be a punk. That's not what he was saying. But what he was saying is that I have not come to overthrow the government, right? You're going to die for the cause of Christ anyway, Peter. You and the rest of my homies, y'all are all going to die in different ways, but you will lay down your life willingly because I laid my life down for you. And this truth is so infectious, and you believe it with your heart of hearts that you are willing to die for it. That's the point that Bearded Slave for Christ is trying to convey here. So I'm going to let this play, but are y'all following? Are y'all picking up what I am putting down here? I hope you are. I hope you see how they came for the kids in 63 using a subversive, manipulative type tactic to get the optics that they needed. And it's no different than them using and coming for your children today. I'm going to let this play some more.
So what we got to do is go out and organize young people. The first thing I said, well, who did this doctor? They told me, Dr. King and our strategist.
I don't know what you're referring to, sir. I represent the Lord Jesus, and my worldview happens to align with making my country great. Absolutely. Would you rather I say, make America horrible again? Like, what is wrong with you? Your hatred for Trump got you out here deranged. MAGA is not, maybe it's a trigger word for you, but 4 letters of an acronym, Make America Great Again. I know in your world you think that means white supremacy. I don't think in those kinds of categories. One, there's no white man supreme to me, and I don't even acknowledge the category. Now, you probably do, because you got an inferiority complex. You think the white man is God, his water's colder. The white man, I know, his knee on your neck. I know. Listen, this is what we do over here. We function in our freedom. That's what we do over here. We don't whine. We don't grovel. We don't complain. But yet we empower ourselves to live within the confines of this government system by using a biblical worldview as our litmus test and our guide. Thus why the super chats that the Bearded Slave for Christ has been submitting all afternoon or evening or night or whatever time it is, has been to remind believers of who we are in Christ Jesus first, and then how we're to function this side of heaven. I'm not a political agitator. That's not what I do. Maybe you came to the wrong live chat and confused about who I am and what I do. But yes, I love this country. I am a slave of the Lord Jesus, but I am an American patriot. No different than if I lived in wherever country the Lord saw fit according to the book of Acts, was it Acts 17, to establish the boundary where I was to live. I would hope and pray and have a desire that wherever society I'm in would be better. I'm not a leftist. Absolutely not. I will not support the sexualization of our children. Now, if you're gay, I would understand that maybe that's what you like, but I don't want that for my country. I don't want to wholesale abort babies up until the 9th month. My biblical worldview demands that I disavow such a policy. I don't know what you want from me. I can go down the list and biblically defend my worldview and why I am MAGA. I don't know how you defend yours, but I don't even know why I spend so much time paying attention to you anyway. Whatever. Listen, like I said, over here, I'm trying to educate my audience. If this ain't the content for you, it ain't for you. But we think over here, like we read books and stuff. Yeah, that's what we do over here.
Session says that the only way to break Birmingham, we're going to have to fill the jails. So I say, I agree. I absolutely agree with you on that. Now, how I fill the jail is my business.
His goal was to fill those jails with children. And it's not a surprise that James Bevel was trying to fill the jails with children because he ended up being a convicted pedophile. Y'all do know that, right? I told you he's one of the original Diddicrats. Yes. I mean, his own son has given testimony. Well, he served time in prison for what he did to his daughters. But horrible the affinity this man had for children and chose to use them as political pawns in his Marxist story tale.
I remember that night, Dr. King was speaking. He was trying like mad to get somebody to go to jail, and they just didn't stand.
I remember King inviting any volunteers to go to jail the next day, and nobody stood up but us kids.
Now, the adults had sense enough to be like, why do I want to go to jail? I don't want to do that. These children stood up, not knowing what they were doing and why they were fighting. They had no idea that this was a subversive Marxist tactic. They didn't know. They just wanted to be a part of something bigger. And they were trusting the adults in their lives to shepherd them the right way. And some parents did. Some parents found out what their children were involved in and shut it down. But this is the rebellion that was incited. Take a listen. Oh, no, don't tell me I
get the football team.
Here we go.
Good.
Stood up but us kids.
That it was going to happen.
But you got to remember that all of the planning was a secret.
Good.
Good morning, children.
The DJs would talk in code and use songs from the hit parade as signals for action.
I remember that morning I woke up with my mind on freedom.
Oh, I took special pains with putting a little starch in my blouse.
Got my toothbrush and I got the toothpaste, the soap.
Because I had a feeling that I wouldn't be coming home.
Ring, ring goes the bell.
The disc jockeys pushed D-Day early in the morning, but they wouldn't even use D-Day. They used all that jive talk.
So they had local DJs using coded language to put the battery in the back of these children. And you heard the testimony of the young woman who said, I put a little extra starch in my shirt that morning and I grabbed my soap and I grabbed my toothbrush because I knew I was going to go to jail, right? So the reason why this matters, I need you guys to see how there's nothing new under the sun and that the Marxists are still using the same playbook. The same playbook. Now, mind you, especially if you're a believer, like we don't share custody of our children with the government. right? That's not what we do. We don't share custody of our children with the school district or the bureaucrats. We don't, not the equity coordinators, the CRT people. No. And we definitely don't, you don't give your children to the custodians of chaos in the political class. So I want to talk a little bit about the emotional manipulation play. You saw it early on with these ICE protests with these children, and I wanted to take you back to 1963 with the Children's March because it was the same thing. So we might as well just call it what it is. This is, or should I say, there's a moral hostage strategy here. You have adults in the room picking a political issue, and they weaponize it and wrap it in all of this emotion, right? These people just want to come here for a better life. They just want to stab at the American dream. It's not fair that ICE is picking them up and taking them back home, and they don't give these children the context of, one, how did they get here? Did they come here the right way, or did they violate the law? Did we have South American nations emptying out their jails, and now these people are in the interior of our country? And not only that, they've come in and they've taken resources that are designated for Americans, and now the price of housing has gone up, and goods and services are now scarce, all because the Democrats need to bring in their next class of electoral serfs so that they can remain in power in perpetuity. They don't care that your school doesn't have the resources that it needed, or that schools in your community closed down. Do y'all remember up in Chicago when they had to make room for all of the migrants? Schools that had sat dormant, where communities needed another school, opened magically, opened up as a shelter for the migrants. All of the money. Let's look at all of the budget deficits in each of these blue cities that now exist because they spent all of the taxpayer money on the immigrants. Now there's no money for you. New York City is in a budget shortfall right now because they ain't got no money, right? So they pushed this whole, they make this emotional ploy on your children, push the children to the front, have them out here protesting. They don't even know what they're fighting for. And if anyone were to push back, all they'll do is scream, "How dare you? Look at the children," right? They're out here fighting. Y'all, it's propaganda. Basically propaganda with training wheels. And so many parents have figured out and caught on. I watched a Instagram reel yesterday of a Black father whose daughter walked out of school to protest ICE. And when he asked her, "Why are you protesting ICE?" not only could she not explain why. When she started saying things like, "Well, they snatching up people, random, Americans off the street." And he was like, "Okay, show me where that's happening." He asked her to prove every accusation that she made, and she couldn't do it. Now, I thought it was interesting that this Black father, was retelling the conversation that he had with his daughter. But the part that concerned me the most is that this father was unable to have the influence over his daughter to teach her and help her to discern the right from wrong and good from evil in this situation. And the truth of the matter is, some of us have not been talking to our children about what's going on, and their worldview doesn't start with a biblical framework. So they are unable to parse through these things and question them through the lens of scripture to say, wait a minute, am I supposed to be out here protesting ICE? Right? Here's my point. Once you start seeing kids being used as political props, you have to start asking yourself some obvious questions. First of all, who organized this? When You just be like, I'm just wondering who organized this, who wrote the script. How do these kids know what to say? Who made the signs? Who gave them the talking points? Why is this happening during school hours? Who sanctioned this? I mean, because we just need to be real. If your kid can't pass a basic reading assessment, but somehow they are fluent in activist slogans, that's not something that was student-led. That came from an adult that's been feeding that to your child, and now your child has been radicalized. There is a reason why you have individuals like Tyler Robinson, whose parents were not leftists, who are like, we lost our son a couple of years ago. He became radicalized, and then he goes to college, and now he out here, he done shot Charlie Kirk. This is how it happens. So I want to make a quick point of precision, because precision matters in these things. Some people might come from the perspective and say, well, these kids don't have the right to protest. That's not my argument. Technically, the Constitution, it names the right to peaceably assemble and to petition and to protest activity. And generally, for the most part, that is activity that's protected as part of your First Amendment expression. Have at it. The issue is not kids can't express themselves. The issue that you should be asking yourself is, who's using the school day to manufacture all this outrage? Where is the pressure coming from for these kids to do this? I'll explain and answer that for you. It wasn't rhetorical. I'm going to answer it. I don't think many of us have realized and have been observing that the teachers' unions are Marxist to the core. Everything, their worldview is flowing from a Marxist framework. That's why you can't have God in the school. Lord forbid, they don't want you praying. The government is God. This is why you see whole school boards passing new ordinances and statutes that say, well, if your kid is transitioning, our teachers don't have to tell you nothing. When they're in our custody, care, and control during the school day, those kids belong to us. There's a reason why children can't think today. They don't want your children to think. That's why your kids ain't learning nothing. They don't want your kids thinking. They want them to be compliant. That is the plan. If your children are in the K through 12 system and they're there for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, they're not learning history from an objective vantage point. We already know there was so much critical race theory just woven into the fabric of the curriculum of these schools. These kids can't even learn math without there being some bent or framework of oppression and systematic racism. Like, it's all through the curriculum. We even had a situation here in Metro Atlanta where a Black teacher was segregating students by race on purpose and didn't see nothing wrong with it. It was just like, your child needs, and the parent was like, why is my kid separated from everybody else? Well, we just figured that this would be a better learning environment for her. This ain't your child. That's my kid. So the reason why I took y'all to Birmingham, it's because that's what you watched is what became known as the Children's March, where over 1,000 students marched through downtown Birmingham. And they have on record that the youngest student was cited was 9 years old. Her name was Audrey Faye Hendricks. Children were arrested en masse on purpose. Remember, James Bevel said he had to fill the jails. He said, now how we fill these jails is my business, right? And they needed the images of the police dogs and the fire hoses blasting children to help shift the public opinion nationally. And it worked. They wanted you to think that this was happening every single day down in the South just because they didn't like black people. Mind you, you heard a first-hand account. This man was like, I hadn't even seen nothing like that. Like, they did their thing. We did ours. Our parents, whatever social unrest was there, I guess it was there, but it was of no consequence to us until them rebel rousers showed up. Hear me carefully. We can acknowledge the history and still tell the truth about the tactic. The tactic was put the children in the line of conflict so that we can produce images, powerful images to enforce political change. And it worked because children, it's the optics of it all. They're morally potent in the public imagination. You see that like, oh gosh, the children, how could they? Without explaining to you that they purposely told these children not to assemble. They purposely told them, you need to disperse this crowd. And the children didn't disperse the crowd. So of course, what you got this crazy white racist, he gonna do? He gonna disperse the crowd. Mind you, hoses was not unique. It was a form of crowd disbursement, and it had been used on all kinds of unlawful gatherings that refused to disperse. This wasn't like a first-time occurrence and they just unleashed it on the blacks. And I think that's the part that a lot of people, they don't like hearing, because you've been taught to view this from one lens, just like we're alive today and we're seeing what they're doing with ICE. What are we in real time watching? We are watching media spin. We're watching them paint Renee Good and the little petty dude. What is his name? John Jacob Joseph. I can't remember. I just know the last name is Petty. As these, they just didn't do nothing. He was a nurse. She was just a mom. Now, us living in real time saw what happened and know the political agitation and the worldview that these people espouse and the radicalization of them. But the optics is all that matters. It's the new issue. New issue, new villains, new cameras. Now we got hashtags. So in 1963, it's the fire and the hoses, right? It's the fire, the fire hoses and the dogs. 2026, now everybody got a smartphone, right? Everybody's posting on social media. Look what ICE is doing. They're killing Americans, just slaughtering them in the streets. And now the schools are accidentally becoming political ecosystems. It's the same concept. Put the children up front. All the adults are pulling like marionette strings from behind. And the reason why this matters for you guys is because once you normalize kids as political instruments, at that point, ain't no breaks. There's no stopping them. They're going to keep going with this. Today, the issue, okay, it's illegal immigration. It might be gender ideology next. We don't know. We don't know. They may take it all to the point now, your parents are the problem. We have to protest because parental authority is too much. And now they done weaponize your child, your own home, against you. I don't think we as believers understand. God never called the state to disciple your children. That is our job. He called you. He called me. We are admonished through scripture to make sure that we teach these things to our children, make it a part of their everyday life. Teach them diligently. Fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. That means no shade to the mama who pulled her child out of school, but she was practicing what I would call some passive parenting by saying, well, honey, whatever school you want to go to, you can't go to this one, but you can go to How is she supposed to know what type of school to go to? You're the parent. It is not let the child pick and we hope that that school does right. It is no. It is I am responsible before God. It is my job. I'm the one that's going to have to give an account. And so Jesus gives a very terrifying warning about people who would harm a child on purpose. Woe to those whoever causes one of these little ones to stumble, millstone around your neck. So here we're watching adults exploit children, school administrators, the socialist group. What was the name of that group again? It's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. That is one of these factions, these Marxist front groups that are getting into the hearts and minds of your children, and you probably don't even know about it. And they will come in and exploit your children spiritually, morally, emotionally. And the whole goal is to make your child think that parents are the problem. They won't let you be great. The parent is the problem. Some of these school systems have already indoctrinated your children to think your mama don't know what's best. Your Lord, don't let there be a daddy. Oh, they hate fathers. There is a war on fatherhood. Absolutely. There's this growing cultural pattern of treating parents like they are a threat when they disagree with the school's ideology. And if you go up there raising Cain, well, they'll just label you like they did those parents in Virginia, domestic terrorists. Y'all remember that? That was like a whole national conversation. This is why I don't share custody of my children with the government, and they ain't never stepped foot in a government school. I peeped this a long time ago. I was like, I can't trust it. We were called crazy. What about the socialization? How your kids gonna adjust? I knew exactly what I was doing. I don't regret it one bit. A few years back, parents who dared to speak up on behalf of their children at school board meetings faced backlash. All they did was send a letter. And they were told that their rhetoric was framed as extremists. And Joe Biden followed up and put federal attention on those parents and labeled them domestic terrorists. That happened, you guys, in this century, this decade. Can you believe that? And I don't even think many of us were like, wait a minute. I don't think we were paying attention to what that meant. This system started viewing parents as obstacles. You were in the way. Do you remember when Donald Trump was like, I'm just in the way. I'm in the way. They hate you, the American people. I'm just in the way. This is why they've tried to take him out. This is why they tried to take him out. And you, the parent, you're an obstacle. You're in the way. The system is already flirting with tyranny. Tyranny always has its eye set on the children because kids are the easiest to shape and they are the hardest to retrieve. Like once that lie has been planted, it's hard. This was part of the whole Democrat plan for 2028 and beyond. It wasn't just the illegals. The illegals was part of the plan, but to target the young people, get them radicalized, starting young. This is why a lot of people got upset with me when I talked about the trap of government subsidized childcare and how I said, I know your childcare is different. But when you start taking money from the government and parents are incentivized to send their children to a daycare where the government's tentacles are involved, do not think that they're the ones shaping, training, and discipling your baby from the cradle. It comes with a price. Everything that's free ain't good for you. And not just that, I just realized, do y'all remember with Kamala? We started hearing her talk about lowering the voting age. This woman publicly mused about lowering the voting age to 16 after she already talked about how stupid and undeveloped the brain of teenagers are. Actually, she was talking about college age children, but then in the next breath wants to lower the voting age to 16. Why do you think that was a thing? That was a thing because the younger they capture your minds, if they're already starting to capture the mind in the Head Start age, by the time they 16, oh, geez, they done. Ain't no turning back. We can get them, they'll vote for us in perpetuity. What's my point? You cannot simultaneously say that, oh, well, a kid is too young to get a tattoo. They're too young to get married. They're too young to sign a contract. They're too young to drink, but somehow they're old enough to vote on the future of this country when their brains are still developing. They still out here living off of hot Cheetos and vibes, but you want them to vote. You want 16-year-olds to vote. The reason why they want 16-year-olds to vote, they need 16-year-olds because they know that that age cohort has already been ideologically groomed to be submissive to the government indoctrination plan. That's why they want it. So, I think I got all the super chats. I'm just making sure. Nope, I missed one. Hello, William. Good to see you. April, children are young and have not had much experience of life. You are really on to something here. Oh, I know I am. Because think about it. Folly is bound up in the heart of a child. That's literally the word of God. And I have been training and discipling my children since before they could speak. They have been, and I'll even use the term indoctrinated because I mean it in a particular way. My children have been catechized from the womb. Who made you? God made me. Why did God make you? Well, what else did God make? God created all things. Why? Why did God make you in all things? God created me in all things for his glory. You start with the knowledge of God, and then from there flows everything else. The first thing that I taught my children, apart from the knowledge of God, sweetheart, you can't know anything. Yes, you can take in information. You can take in knowledge, but knowing and being able to decipher right from wrong, good from evil, what is your purpose and why you exist, it begins with the knowledge of God. And outside of this cursory knowledge of God, you've got to train your children to understand this is the world system and how it operates. Why is there evil? Why does evil exist? My children have known Romans 1, Romans 3:10. It was just a part of our life. They would ask a question, Mommy, why is that man over there? Why did he just kiss another man? I need to be able to explain that. I have to start with the doctrine of sin. Not one time did I ever lead my children to believe that they were just innocent and perfect. Impressionable, yes, but sinless and perfect, absolutely not. They were vipers in diapers. If you are a parent, you know that there's a sin nature in a baby. You know it. You know it. And so they've understood from their youth the sinfulness of man and the holiness of God. And it is not my job. I don't have the ability to convert my child and to give them a new heart, but it is my job to give them the gospel, to train them and raise them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and then hopes that by God's grace, the seed that I plant will grow and flourish. into whatever it is that the Lord has for them. But I'm not going to be caught slipping and saying, well, I didn't know. No, it is the same way. Ideologically, I've done that with their education. So you might be wondering, what do you do? What do you do if you're like, I'm kind of stuck in this government system, right? For me, a practical step, and I know a lot of people might see this as, I don't think I could ever do that, but you're going to have to pray and submit that desire to the Lord. I am a firm proponent of home education. Like, I homeschool. I just do. I'm not, no, I can't do it. It's very difficult to audit the environment if you don't. I mean, yes, you could ask your kid, well, what did your teacher say about this? Did anyone pressure you to do that? Or what were the consequences of, you could do that. I'm saying for me, I'm not going through all that. I'm not sending my kid to Caesar to be sent home back to me as Romans. I got out what I put in. You have to talk to your children about these issues. Children understand. We talk about illegal immigration. We talk about homelessness. We talk about all kinds of issues, the LGBT, the transgender issue, abortion. I've talked to my children about these things so that they can learn and understand the difference between compassion and manipulation. I show them all the kids that are chimping out when they're in school and they fighting each other and acting a fool. I be like, see, remember that time you said you had wanted to go to school? And they're like, oh my goodness, are they fighting? Yes, this is what they do. Every day? Well, I don't know every day, but most of the time, this is it. My girls were like, oh my God. I love my girls. They're just like, oh my goodness, is she pulling her hair? I'm like, listen, you your mama's child, but we different. We are absolutely different, because they were clutching their pearls, seeing like the teen takeovers and just all the violence. Like, my kids ain't used to that. They don't know nothing about that life. And that's done on purpose, right? They're not ignorant to Satan's devices, but they're not immersed in it to where they can say, this is my testimony. This is why, no, it's not. But the point I'm making is, I've taught them the difference between compassion and manipulation, and how as Christians, we are absolutely to care about people and for people, but we don't endorse lawlessness, right? Mercy's not the same as open border madness, because for all of the liberal foolishness out here saying, oh, you need to abolish ICE and ICE is evil, you ain't seen now one of those people bring in some illegals and let them camp out on their couch. So I recently saw Kirk Franklin talking about, we need to be compassionate and like he's so compromised. He can't even biblically think through the basics. And I'm like, Kirk, you ain't got no yin. I said yin. I know that's not a word. He has no illegals in his little gated community with his white furniture and his baby grand piano. I'm like, how many illegal aliens have you let in your home? None. Do not lecture us about compassion and how ICE is wrong when you're completely ignorant to why we have ICE and how it's not okay for us to have millions and millions of people who came here that we cannot take care of. So as it relates to you trying to decide what decision you should be making and how you should be moving, figure out what your options are and then exercise your exit options. This is why I support school choice, especially the homeschool option, because homeschool, it's not just academics. It is a boundary that I have set up and established, and you don't get the right to cross it. the government, or anyone else. It's a boundary on purpose. Yes, I socialize my child. I teach them the ways of the Lord and how they're supposed to live and function in this world. My child's not a lab rat for your ideological experiments. Okay, you ain't going to use them as a campaign volunteer. They're not a protest prop. They're not some sort of moral shield. Those are my children. And so if you as a parent, I get it. I'm not saying this is the only way, but it's the way that I've chosen to set a boundary. But if you can't homeschool, you have to look for the best alternative you can. Fight for school choice. Find a charter school. Look into private school. Get with your church and start a co-op. Do whatever you have to do that gives you the authority that is rightfully yours. Because the bottom line is, when adults use children to advance politics, they're not empowering these young people. They are absolutely exploiting them in their ignorance. And so if you're a parent watching me, you're going to have to decide, or a grandparent, who owns the influence over your children and your home? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Because if you don't disciple your kids, somebody else will. And they will do it with joy. And they're not going to do it with just the curriculum. There's going to be the social pressure, the fear, all of the trendy moral slogans. And then one day you're going to wake up and your child going to be looking at you like you the enemy. And you're going to be like, how did we get here? And you'll be like, she tried to warn me and I didn't see it coming. I told you, the system's goal is to tell your child that your parents are the problem. The state knows what is best. And if that's not an antichrist spirit, I don't know what is. So, anyway, let me grab this super chat. Super chat. Thank you so much for your support tonight. I have no idea how to pronounce your YouTube. We're going to call you Game Over because Game Over writes, thank you. I worked in a high school in the Midwest back in 2017. And I remember feeling livid that my school was organizing a DACA anti-Trump protest, and it was just assumed that staff would support. I'm telling you, the assumption is if you're in the system, everyone has to believe and align ideologically the same. It's a part of the government system. The teachers union owns the school system. So I'm not surprised that they're like, yeah, you gotta protest for the Dreamers. And I know teachers, New York City public school teachers. One in particular, she was like, I can't wait to retire. She said, it's so stressful in my classroom. She said, the vast majority of the kids in my classroom don't even speak English. And I'm expected to teach them the same that I teach everybody else, but they don't speak the language. So now I've got to slow everything down. So now my English speaking kids are getting behind because the non-English speaking children are in the classroom. Like they're not separated with everybody else, from everybody else, where they can learn at their own pace. She's like, I'm so ready to get out. She's so ready to, I think she's got a couple of more years before she can retire. It's bad. It is so bad. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. But thank you so much for that super chat. I agree. I know what you're going through. I've talked to educators who are like, I'm getting out the game. Long live liberty. Thank you so much for your support tonight. I greatly appreciate that. He doesn't leave a comment. He just leaves a super chat to support the show and the work that I'm doing. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. As I was saying, it's rough out here, but parents are going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure it out. there are so many options to homeschool today that doesn't necessarily require it to be parent led. You have to be involved and hands on, but you can do it with support. Liberty University has an amazing K through 12 online homeschool that is impeccable. And it's I would encourage you visit Liberty University's website and then go to the homeschool and request a packet. It's on the pricier side, but it's still cheaper than sending your child to a private school in your local jurisdiction. But it's accredited. It's amazing. Um, I started educating my children using a myriad of different curriculum choices, but the primary curriculum that we used early on was BJU Press. And then we transitioned and did a hybrid between BJU Press and My Academy, or Maya Prep for the high schooler. And I'm about to graduate. My 17-year-old will be 18 next week, and he will be graduating soon. So we're excited about that. But anyway, I'm gonna skedaddle, you guys. I meant to cover another topic, but I don't know where the clip is, and I don't feel like looking for it. And it's late. We didn't start till 9:30, so it'll be 2 hours soon. I don't know what I got going on tomorrow outside of I think I have a video. I think I have a video that I have prepared to drop, but I'm not sure. But don't worry about it. But until next time, you guys, y'all stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.